has to be among the few of the most iconic vehicles of World War II. No matter whether you know it from the G, the E, or even the earlier variants, this iconic aircraft actually was actually considered to be replaced. That's right, one of the most epic bombers of the Second World War, one of two, fought in both the Pacific and the European theatre, could have nearly never gotten built. I will now read about the Boeing B17, while you have a look at the G version from its Wikipedia. Now, because it's from a Wikipedia page, it may not be true. Well, obviously, let's get this thing out of the way. Yes, it is a 4-engined heavy bomber, armed to hell with turrets. The Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress is a 4-engined bomber developed in the 1930s by the United States Army Air Corps. Obviously. It was built by Boeing as a competition began between Douglas and Martin, the B-25, the Martin B-25, and the Douglas B-18, I do believe, as well as the SBD. The Boeing entry was nicknamed XB-17 to model number 299. Unfortunately, model 299 did crash and was eventually scrapped. And I will be talking about a bit about some of the more famous aircraft of B-17s. Outperformed both competitors and exceeded the Air Corps' performance specifications, although Boeing did lose the contract to the B-18, done by Douglas. Because the prototype crashed, and the Air Corps ordered a furthermore 13 B-17s for further evaluation, and from its introduction in 1938, so this thing was built in 1938, the Flying Fortress evolved through the numerous advanced designs, becoming the third most produced bomber of all time behind the B-24 and the Junkers Ju-88, so behind the plane that was built to replace it, and German dive bomber. It was introduced on April 1938 and was retired in 1968 by the Brazilian Air Force. Over 12,000 models were built. And of course you had your different variants. You had your XB-38 Flying Fortress, YB-40 Flying Fortress, and the C-108 Fortress. So, yeah, obviously that literally sums it up. Now the B-17, and I will be talking about the TBLF, so we'll get that out of the way now. Here in War Thunder you get 3 different versions. You get the B-17G, B-17E, B-17EL, which just stands for E-Layer. But Duncan, what about... Yes. If you are in the Japanese tech tree, you can purchase a B-17E premium bomber. Basically, this thing was captured by the Japanese. I haven't flown it. I don't know how good it is, so... But one of the things I didn't do is... Good. Wait, what's updating? Fortnite's got an update. Show probably a 2 GB. Ugh. Let's work on the other. Hello, viewer. Hello, viewer. Hello. Dies by video. Rip. Boy. Okay. I'm just talking about bombers. Don't need to be that mean. Oh, shit. Why do you need a month to Asia? I mean, it's a pretty good country, but oh well. TBF Avenger Roman TBF. Now we're going to talk about the Northrop Grumman TBF, later TBM, Avenger torpedo bomber, one of the most popular torpedo bombers of the Second World War. Yep. It entered service in 19... Yeah, I can spell, and can I tell you, you had an explosive person when I started watching. How did he escape? This plane entered 1920s and was about retired in about the 1960s. When Douglas's TB Devastator started to get quite a bit obsolete by 1940s, I mean, it was obsolete by the 1940s, even with the SBD and the F2A, Brewster Buffalo. Gotta love tea. Eventually, the Americans replaced the Brewster Buffalo with the F4F Wildcat and later replaced that with the F6F Hellcat. The SBD was eventually replaced with the SB2C, while the TBF replaced the the Devastator. One of the things that this aircraft had over it is the wings were hydraulic, which literally meant that this thing could take up quite a lot less space than the Devastator. However, it was modernized. It has two guns in the wings, both which 50 cals, and two 7.62mm machine gun, well, one 6.72mm machine gun in the rear, and one 7.150 cal in the rear as well. Of course, because this thing entered during the Battle of Midway, it saw action against the Imperial Japanese carriers Hiryu, Soryu, Kaga, and Akagi, along with the SBDs, and would see right through the war in the Royal New Zealand Air Force, Royal Australian Air Force, the Royal Air Force, Royal Canadian Air Force, the Royal Dutch Air Force, captured by the Japanese as well, and even operated by the United States Air Corps. This thing had a Wright R26020 twin cyclone 14 cylinder radio engine, which produced 19,000 horsepower. Imagine shoving that into your car. It had, of course, about a 3-crew gun. Yeah. Had a 30 cal and 50 cal, so it was decently armed. It could equip the Mark 13 torpedo, and I've got the 1944 variant equipped to this thing. Not really much on Wikipedia about this thing. Oh well, not much I can say about that now. So I'm going to fly out in the TBF and talk about some of the things about this aircraft that made it pretty popular with pilots. Oh, one thing I do have to mention is after the Royal New Zealand Air Force finished with them, they sold them, and farmers got them, and they became crop dusters. Put the crop duster variant in, man. The TBF was a very, very good aircraft. Now, we are in Kaimusk, summer of 1945, so this is a alternate history version. So, we'll be flying against the Soviets. And somebody is flying a Spitfire Mark IIA and complaining about its lack of guns. Well, I mean, it did have 3.3mm machine, 303 machine guns. It's like flying a bomber. And it's like, oh, I can't. A big 4-engine bomber. And it's like, oh. And yeah. And it's like, oh, yeah, just because it flies. Oh, well done. We got a Russian on our team. I wonder how many people are going to bitch at that. I'm going to just tell them to do the smart thing. They fly a different nation than fly Dipstick Nation. Alright, here we go. We are going to go for the enemy ships. Luftwaffe. Alright, we've got Slipknot Fit Forever, Loisk, Ukul Burboy, Call Me Jeff, so just call me Jeff. Duncannuva, Ranks, Antonovman, Psycho, the 70,429th, the 13th Eugenes, Kongza Wangpa, Rezor, Luftwaffe, and Yuitsa. Flying against us is Demos, Eva 33, Max Triple X, Mika 2004, Cables, RG 3, Bionicle. This is probably some Russian thing. I probably butchered that. Armist, Urber Studio, Warlock, who was the 70, the Elfkier, Sasha. I found Sasha. Someone touched his gun. No. Right, yes, the TBF. It was a carrier-based bomber and could carry bomb loads and torpedoes. Obviously, one of the biggest things about it is it had a hydraulic wing, so it made folding in out and the folding in and out of the wings quite good. However, offensive armaments, you can forget about it. With just 250 cals on the wings, and that's them there, and not really that much ammunition. Of course, I've just wasted stuff. No. Yep, thanks, thank you. Because I'll just right. Oh, he's in a bit of a problem then.
Attention to the designated grid zone.
Nah, well, I guess. Well, I mean, it just eventually replace it with 12.2, 12.5 or 12.7mm machine guns. We'll check after this. There. Considering I have actually gotten kills on this, both the Spitfire Mark 1A and the Mark 2B, and the Mark 2A and the Mark 2B, all of which have 303 machine guns, I'm actually not that bad of a pilot. And just to shock you all again, viewers, this is my second video today. Again, I've got an MMD video up, this time of a video called Happy Halloween. And yes, I know Happy Halloween is away, so Halloween has been all, like, months ago. It's like several weeks ago. Yum. So, what else can I tell you about the TBF Avenger? Well, it was also used by the Royal New Zealand Air Force. Now, the New Zealand Air Force used it quite good, to quite good uses. And like I mentioned, after the US, well, the NZ Army and Navy had finished using this thing, they replaced it with... They sold them to farmers, and the farmers got their hands on them and turned them into crop dusters. And because they were crop dusters, they were actually really good at it. In the Royal New Zealand Air Force, unfortunately. And then along come the 1960s and they were eventually retired. And a lot of them are in museums. I know one's up in Christchurch and I know one's up in Auckland as well. Which is a good side. Now, the downside of this thing, the cockpit. This thing had a crew of 4. You had 2 gunners at the rear here, and your bombardier in the middle there. That meant you had to store them all, and because this thing had a canopy that was quite large, like a family sedan, you would often lose crew to machine gun fires, and because this thing was again a torpedo bomber, you had to fly quite close to the surface, and at quite low speeds, which meant you would easily get killed by BF-109s, Focke-Wulf 190s, A6M0s, etc, etc, etc. There's a Wellington up there, that's good. Wellington wasn't that bad of an aircraft either. I might do a video on the Wellington. Feel free to ask questions, I will answer them to the best I can about the TBF or the thing, the B17. Of which I'll be playing next, and yep. Now I have to slow down to friggin' 300 knots. Or 300 miles per hour. This thing doesn't have air brakes, which really was like, what? I thought this thing did. In real life, this thing would have had air brakes. Well, there goes Call Me Jeff. Call me the Jeff. Oh, whoops. God, I get it. I mean, 3 shots and that's fucking... Hey, Anthony. Or hey, viewers. Did you need some salt for your chips? I found someone who can supply you some salt. It was the Jeff. He's dead now. I'm already salty, yes it is. What else is new? This is you we're talking about, Blazehorn. Flying around at the speed of sound, got places to go, got things to be found. The flag is opening at me, I'm coming in. I killed someone over the weekend. Okay. Fly that way a bit. If you get under 100 feet, you don't have to worry about the flag hitting you as often. And unfortunately, because I'm flying quite close. Alright. Torpedo underwater, away. Speed up, speed up, speed up. No, wait, no, wait, no, wait. And that is how you kill his destroyer. You do it Duncan style. And you can see it going that way. And now we're just going to get away from all of that. I'm leaking oil, so that means if I don't get back to base soon and repair my engine will seize up.
Our victory is near.
Meanwhile, so this one, Spitfire, two Spitfires, needs to be 2C, oh no, you know, 2 Spitfires, me and a TBF, and a Wellington, and there needs to be 2C left. Okay. And if I get jumped, I'm fucked. Yum. Gotta say, I do enjoy good tea. So I think now would be a good thing to talk a bit about what's going to be happening with my channel. Gonna have to put a hiatus on videos for a while, both MMD and non-MMD, because I might as well say this now, I'm actually relocating houses. I'm moving from where I currently live to the city, I mean, Christchurch. Don't know where yet, and I don't know when I'm moving, but I will be probably end up packing up a lot of the stuff I use. I know I said I'd do a Xbox Minecraft tour, but I may end up doing that, like, as a thing my friend's gonna do of the world we're working on, but I want to kind of get finished at the moment. So probably what I'll do later, i.e. tomorrow or later this evening, is I'll get off here. Let's see, it's probably about 1 in the morning now. Oh, nearly 1 in the morning. Get onto Xbox Live and then go do some do some Minecrafting there, because I've got a lot of stuff to do. Wait, were you talking about me? You know, even when you make a subtle hint to my friend, he doesn't even know when it is about him. Yes, I was talking about you. No, well, it's fair enough. I mean, a lot of people can miss stuff like that, but you know, I was talking about Blazehorn. Because he'll probably have access to a camera and stuff to do it with. I won't, because, like I said, I'm packing up and moving. So, yep. Probably should turn my engine down. Aren't we all busy with other things, though? So yeah, that's basically the gist of my situation at the moment. So, actually, a lot of people probably are busy with other things. I mean, like I said, I just mentioned I'm busy with moving. So, you know, that's my other thing I'm doing, so. Yep. This thing would be pretty fun to fly in real life, but no. And a lot of things, you know, stuff like that. Any reviews of Lego sets or toy sets are gonna have to up and push back to probably next year, something like that. I'm gonna be doing I want to do a show off of a lot of my drawings that I've been doing that are fit to be shown on YouTube. So I'll probably end up taking like a lot of pictures, putting them to some music on a Movie Maker and putting them all together. Any updates on models? Again, a lot of the stuff I've got have been packed up, they've been put away in boxes, and I'm not touching them until after the move has been done next year. So, well, the end of this year. So that's what's going to be happening for me, and of course I am turning 28, 21. 21? What's 9 plus 10? 21? That's a battleship. So, lucky old me. I'm gonna be an old man! Moving around, there's a battleship. Where is that? Is that a battleship? That looks like a cruiser to be more like it. No, it's a battleship. Oh, it's like an idea. Might be the Texas. Oh no, it's more pretty. No, it looks like the Texas, so there you go. We got some destroyers. Oh. Oh no, please don't die on me now. Don't die on me now, engine. Don't die on me now. Oh, come on, please. Please make it back to base. Come on, engine. Let's gain some altitude. Come on, engine, make it back to base. Please, we're nearly there. Come on! 1 like equals we'll probably not make it back to base. Come on. I hate pushing my engines to the max because eventually overheating. There we go. Come on. Come on. Come on. I'm screwed. It's now time to become a boot. Alright. We became a boat, guys. Hashtag yeah. We'll return to hangar. We nearly made it back to base, but we didn't because we failed. RIP. Oh well. I mean, there's only so much you can do, especially when your engine gets killed. And that's my problem with big radial-engined aircraft. As the moment they get taken out, the moment they just become bloody lead weights. They're so heavy. There it is. Of course, here's the British version. Virals TV. Unplugged victory mark. Okay, you're just saying unplugged piece for some random ass bloody reason. That was weird. Can you have a look at what he just said in chat? See if you can decipher this better than I can. Virals TV. Plug and piece. Okay. If we cancel that, I know he's signing out. Who's that YouTuber though? He's so weird. I don't either. Da, 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 da. He's got 924 subscribers though. Damn. He's got 924 subscribers though. Damn. And now that will be for looped ever again. Huh. Oh well. Now I'm going to be the chat monitor. And now we get on to the other quite iconic aircraft of the Second World War. Of which there were many. I mean, you had the B17, you had the Focke-Wulf, you had the BF-109, you had the Supermarine Spitfire, you had the Ju-88, the Lancaster, the A6M0, the K, the Valve, the SM-79, some of the French aircraft. The list goes on and on. I want to show you something. Da, 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 da. I only have to research the B2425, the B29, and then I get the B75, well, B57. Yeah, pardon me. And of course I'm gonna research these two. The two P. It's now time to fly as the Boeing B17. Leave in the comments, leave in this chat if you want to see me do another video, i.e. based on another aircraft of your thing. Hell, you could even request a tank. And I'll talk about it and look like a git. And we're in Normandy. One thing I should mention is that when the B-17 was put into mass production, it was used in the daylight bombing raids, unlike the Lancaster. The Lancaster couldn't actually hold that much of a punishment. I'm scared. It's my bigger brother. When everything's going fine, but then your big brother shows up and scolds you. Honorable, why Mr. B29? My problem with the B-17s is the engines overheat way too bloody quickly. But I mean, there are a lot of aircraft like that. Aircraft like that. But I think the B-29 suffers from it as well, as does the... I don't know, one of the Junkers did. No, it was the Bionicle 177. That was funny, that one. I learned about that recently. The H-177 was nicknamed the Flying Coffin because it caught on fire and it burnt. I am planning on doing a couple of character videos, but for now I want to do a video, well, talk a bit about a trio of characters. I have myself and two friends of mine, one of whom is watching this. His name is Blazehorn. Yeah, go him. Characters in AFML's Minecraft Diaries. A sneeze. Yep. And basically their corruption, because if you don't know what Minecraft Diaries is, basically it is AFML's series where she starts out with it's meant to be a survival one. Rip my best friend. No, what have I done? I knew my sneeze was too powerful. I should have kept it in my nose, but I can't. Basically, back onto the description of Minecraft Diaries. It's basically a fantasy role-playing game. AFML. Your story has changed. Oh my. That's a cheat! Oh! Oh my god! Before I continue on, P-80s, the Gloucester Meteor, and the R2Y2 are all shit aircraft! Ah, shit. I'll be fighting ME-262s and 163s. Ah, jeez. Yes, that's it. Yes, Blazehorn. Your story has changed. To your...
Attention to the designated
Anyway.
red zone. Take him down.
Yeah, there's an ME-262.
The enemy's getting closer to victory.
Been engaged by a P-80. I don't think the 262's got the advantage. In fact... the LA-5 has no hope of trying to catch him. Except because, yeah. Right. Minecraft Diaries started out as for AFML as a role-playing series where she was a leader of a village as a survival series, and eventually it evolved into something a bit more. Some of the characters, well, the characters myself and my friends have come up with are a bunch of knights who end up becoming one quarter corrupted, and I'm going to be doing the story of where they basically accept that corruption and they, yeah, so in it, the first person to turn is actually a character called Terror Hunter, who in this is called Sir Hunt. And he is... oh, what's this? Sir Hunt had been requested via a peace deal between two villages. It had been about 3 years since Sir Hunt and his companions, pardon me, had been abandoned by...
Attention to the map.
accidentally forgotten by Lady Irene and her friends. Well, by Lady Irene.
Our victory is near.
You can hear the turbojet. Oh, you can hear it. Is he gonna go for me or is he gonna go for the B-29? Doesn't matter, there's another one. I'm screwed. Evasive maneuvers, evasive maneuvers. Oh, none of those hit. Oh, there we go. We collided with each other. Dropping bomb. What the fuck ranks? What the fuck's point? Oh, you don't know how. I know. I'm a helicopter now. Anyway. Oh, he's Japanese. Hate you, B17, eh? G. Oh. Oh, that's good looking aircraft. P-80, shooting star. Oh my god, I feel so sorry for him. Another P-80. I don't care. Hey, we found the king. Get over yourself.
Somebody attack him! Destroy the target!
It's a J7W. Anyway. Let's just call this guy a princess and go with her. Before I continue on the story, I'd just like to thank Princess here. Without him, he wouldn't have known how to tell me how to do my job properly. Seven. So thank you, Princess, for making this interesting. Bye. Nah, we lost our one. Got 12,000. Anyway. These two villages had been at war for quite a while, and were unable or unwere near getting peace between the two. That didn't bother Sir Hunt, I mean. Very few things did. Now, what annoyed him was the wives. On the travel all the way up there, and on the travel all the way back. Well, all the way up to the meeting spot, the two wives were constantly at each other's throats about little things. Fashion. The latest tech. How great their husbands were in ruling kingdoms and such. Sir Hunt got used to the arguing and eventually droned it out, not giving it the slightest damn about anything. Pardon me. Just gotta survive, just got to survive. Sir Hunt said to himself. I don't have enough money. Rip. Oh well. Probably ask my dad for something. As time went on, the lakeside became full of discussion. That they had arrived at was one of the more clearer lakes of the area, and Sir Hunt admired it, even went fishing for a bit. After a while, the arguing ceased. The two village elders took a break from their from their wives and retreated to a small remote location. The children were playing, but the wives sat as far as they could within the safeties of the needs. Oh wow, 4 viewers. 1 popular. Alright, so we've got 3 B17s and a B24 Liberator. Welcome. So I'm just going to point out one thing. The B24 Liberator was actually designed to replace the B17, of which there are 2 B17Gs and a B17E. B24 could carry a bigger bomb load and had much more greater range, but the B17 was much more rugged and could take quite a bit more impact. But both aircraft were well respected by the United States Army and Navy. Well, Army and Air Force. Even the Marine Corps, I think. And it even resulted in the building of another one, known as the PB4Y Liberator, or Privateer, which was a much more heavily armed gunship version of the B24. Again, I'll be doing a bit of comparisons between the B24 and the B17. As well, they're both really good aircraft, and they've all got 50 cals, and they're not that dangerous. But anyway, back to what I was saying in the story. So Hunt hadn't had a moment's rest, constantly dealing with the nagging wives and their hatred for each other. But he didn't care. He soldiered on. Until it happened. Whilst he was out fishing, he had left his rod resting against a tree while he had gone to go and get something to eat. When he came back, he noticed that his rod, something that he had made himself from the banks of a willow tree that no longer grew, was broken in 3 places. Rather annoyed by this, he picked it up and looked around. The force required for it would have been quite a hefty footstep. He walked over to a nearby child and said, "Child." Wait, who are we talking about here? Sir Hunt, aka Terror Hunter. "Child, did you break my fishing rod?" The child looked down in shame and nodded, and Sir Hunter sighed and accepted that the child didn't mean to break the fishing pole. "Please don't do it again." The child nodded, and Sir Hunter, it's fair enough, went back to doing his thing. After fixing the rod with nearby bark and tree and vines and other minerals, he'd managed to catch a fish, and was in the proceeds of taking it and gutting it and scaling it and getting it ready to be served up for dinner, that the arguing women began again. This time, however, Sir Hunter had had enough of the duo arguing, complaining about each other, and trying to compare that. It was like a pissing contest, Sir Hunter said. I had heard in death Sir Leviathan say.
Attack the enemy!
Actually getting quite annoyed now, and to be fair, was on the last nerves of what he could muster. Sir Hunter drew out his trusty longsword. Well, trusty mace, actually. The mace was a quite unique design. It wasn't styled like your traditional ones. In fact, it was more... My God. Oh, God. You know, you try to do one thing, and then you can't really do anything because some prick in a Spitfire comes and kills you. Bastard. Anyway. As Sir Hunter walked over to the first of the two wives, Sir Hunter, she began, until a blood-curdling scream was heard, and her head was reduced to nothing more than the consistency of gelatin. The second wife didn't even get much more of a scream as Sir Hunter bashed her head in with his shield. We're just on this map. Lol. The children were the next because they ran over to investigate the scream, and upon getting too close, also met an unspectacular fate. With the wives dead, the head guards ran over and looked at Sir Hunter, whose armor was splattered in blood, as well as bits of bone and shards of bone and bits of organic brain matter. He turned to each of the guards and dropped one of the child's bodies, which he had bashed against a tree. His eyes weren't actually the typical Shadow Knight red. They were in fact Shadow Knight were actually quite a dark purple. He turned and lunged at the first of the guards and killed him with a blow to his abdominal area, crushing his liver, his stomach, his kidneys, and his upper intestines, as well as his intestines. Blood and bile and stomach acid came out of the man's esophagus before the stomach acid ate away at his armor, reducing him to nothing more than canned human soup. He was killed when Terror Hunter dropped his shield on his head. The second guard actually managed to swing his sword, and it shattered against Terror Hunter's helmet. The Divine Knight of Irene turned and looked and head-butted the guard, and killed him with a blow powerful enough to normally break rock. It didn't end there. Sir Hunter then found the fathers, who were talking with their head guards, first in commands. His armor dripped in blood, and bits of bone and human flesh and organs were on it. He swung and killed the first guard with his mace, before picking up the guard's morning star, swinging it around and smashed it into the second one, into the back of the second one's head, reducing him to a bloody mess. Putting both of them on his hilt, he threw his circular shield like a discus, and it cut the first guy's head off. Walking over to the second guy. What? Why are you doing this? Because I've been commanded to. Emerged from the deranged hunter, from Terror Hunter's lips. Picking up a bit of a rock and using it as a blunt object, he bashed against the person's head. With all the lords and their families and their guards dead, he walked away, his eyes purple, slowly fading to red, as a smirk slowly spread across his lips. He fled the scene. Of course, he didn't want to be found. But eventually word would make back, and would eventually spring up a murderer in the city. A murderer who would have really bad luck in running into Sir Drakon. Sir Drakon was the more noblest and more kinded, but as of recently had begun to get a little bit more pissed off. And that's fair, I mean. Who wouldn't?
Attack the enemy!
Sir Drakon had learned of the past month that a murderer had sprung up due to the death of the villagers. Of the people in the, well, outside.
Somebody attack him!
Our victory is near.
This murderer had been using Sir Hunter's, son of a bitch, murders as a way to make sure that he could get noticed by the murderous guilds that were around. Drakon eventually caught him because the guy screwed up. Posing like his best friend, someone who he knew, he asked the simple question, where were you on the 6th of May, 6th of whatever month, 3 years ago? The imposter didn't respond, and in fact was quickly and quietly apprehended by Sir Drakon. Sir Drakon took him to a court system and was asked to weigh in because he knew Sir Hunter. However, unlike Sir Hunter and like Sir Drakon, he had been feeling quite a bit angry as of recently. As if his blood was screeching out for murder. Wanting more and craving it. To be fair though, Sir Drakon could be quite murderous when it came to war, but that's why Lady Irene liked him. As the court system began, the man's charges were eventually laid out on the table before him. The murder of an innocent young woman, the murder of a child. More and more murders of family members. But the murderer kept saying, I'm innocent. Let me go. Sir Drakon had just about enough of what he could get out of this man. Walking over to him and grabbing him with an armored gauntlet and saying in quite a tone, if you don't start talking, I'm going to make sure that you do, before I rip your tongue out of your mouth, insignificant mortal! Before throwing the terrified person back down in his seat. Unfortunately, this had the other consequence, and made the man less likely to talk. Sir Hunter, could you please not scare the victims? Sir Sir Drakon, please don't scare the victims. This was beginning to tie into his patience, and he was on to his last nerve. And to be rightfully so, he had a reason. Taking a deep breath, he stood back in his corner and waited for the verdict to be reached. Unfortunately, it wouldn't. The man kept insisting that he was innocent and that he was wrongly accused. This was the last thing he said as Sir Drakon launched with his longsword drawn and cut the man down the middle. The two arms of the man hit the floor, and blood-curdling screams could be heard from the guards and the civilians there before Sir Drakon murdered the entire courtroom. His lightning magic was quite dangerous as it hit into a judge and turned him straight into ash. Another one of his hit a guard and reduced him to an exploding fragmentation grenade. Opening the door and walking out slowly, a quite nasty smile breached Sir Drakon's lips, as his eyes were a more darkish purplish red, as he walked out of the city and away. Guards couldn't get anywhere near him because his aura and his magics forbade anyone from getting close enough to put him under arrest. That was 2 of the 3 Divine Knights of Irene, now completely taken over. Shad must laugh to himself, and in his realm of the Nether, I only need 1 more, and then I've got my prize, he said. Exactly 1 year later, Sir Leviathan was walking down the street. His armor shone, and he'd been recently praying at the Chapel of Irene, erected in the city. He had been suffering from night terrors, and much like Death or Sir Drakon and Sir Hunter the nights before had told him in quite secret, they too had been suffering from night terrors themselves. Sir Leviathan was requested by the city council to stay, however, and could not actually fulfill his prey. Arriving there, people and guards walked up to him. I think they're going to get you to request to arrest your fellow knights because of their murders they've done. No, they're innocent. Sir Hunt. Can I speak English? No, I can't. Sir Leviathan said, ignoring the blatant truth. A few weeks ago, they had recently found the bodies of the villagers who were trying to get a peace done, only to find they had been met the same way as, well, how normally Sir Hunter dealt with them. A mace to the head. There was not much left of the corpses, from what they had not bloated and rotted in the autumn sun. It was now mid-spring. Well, mid-autumn again, exactly 1 year late. It's mid-winter. After people had found what Sir Drakon had done to the court system, they were appalled. Ash and blood lay everywhere. The exploded remains of a guard and deceased rotting remains. Rats, as they had tried to move the bodies, rats and mice had crawled into the carcasses to devour the flesh. Sir Leviathan did admit that these 2 deaths did ring of familiarity, but he did not want to bring his best friends in. They'd been friends ever since before the war, and even during Lady Irene's war, were quite content with that. You could keep bringing... Young man, you should bring your friends in. Your find peace in yourself. Lady Irene would forgive you. It's not Lady Irene I want to forgive. It's from Sir Leviathan said under his breath to the old coot. Eventually he made it to the city council. Why am I the first one to die? And, unfortunately for him, that is exactly what the council said. Sir Leviathan, we request that you bring in your allies, Sir and Sir Death, under the charges of murder. I keep telling you people, they're innocent. Sir Leviathan did, slamming his hand on a disc, breaking the sudden magical wood table. Under anger. You will do as you are told and bring them in. And if I'm not, but don't, you'll be branded as a traitor and hunted down and executed. You'll have to catch me first. There wasn't much that could be said, as Sir Leviathan lunged forward and gutted the first councillor in half like a fish. The second one met another end at the end of his longsword, at the end of his claymore. The next two also met their ends. By the time the city guard had realized what had happened, Sir Leviathan turned around and broke the door down with an explosive magics. The magics reduced the door to splinters and caused the splinters to impale and kill the guards that ran up the steps. Using explosives and fire magics along with his own knack for killing, Sir Leviathan began to kill the young, the elderly, and the rich, the poor, alike. He stood at the gates of the city with an evil grin on his face, with an evil smile, and had begun laughing evilly. Throwing back his head and laughing as he clutched his sword in one hand and fire magic brewed in the other one. His laugh was only met with a dark black and purple aurora that flew around him. Sir Hunter and Sir Death eventually, well, Sir Hunter and Sir Dracon emerged from the nearby woods, attracted black moths to a flame, to Sir Dracon's laugh, and eventually joined in with their auroras activating. Sir Dracon a dark blue and dark yellow, no, not yellow, dark purple, whilst Sir Hunter was a dark orange and a dark red. Eventually the trio looked at the city as the blood ran in the streets, flushing into a nearby river, and forever changing it from the blue crystalline rivers of Irene, formerly known as the Tears of Irene, to the disgrace of Irene. The trio left the area, followed by 50 others who had seen all three of them as allies and comrades. Eventually, 3 months would pass. Leviathan picked up a post from a nearby tree. Guys, he said. What? Said Sir Dracon. He launched down 3 wanted posters of them with their helmets on, with miscoloured helmets. Sir Dracon had a green helmet. Sir Dracon had a nice dark blue helmet. Sir Hunter had a nice red helmet, while Sir Leviathan had a green helmet, a dark green helmet. They're calling us the Fallen Three. That's not... We might as well accept it as our consequence. for what we did. I agree, Sir Dracon and Sir Hunter said. Sir Leviathan nodded. So, we'll be changing our names and as well? And we might as well colour our armour, Sir Dracon said to Sir Leviathan's thing. From that day forth, Sir Leviathan, Sir Dracon, and Sir Hunter had died at the hands of Indith, Terror Hunter, and Deathhorn. In their final moments, they embraced who they were, but banished any mention of Shadow Knights, thus greatly angering Shad. However, Shad knew of their betrayal, and then sought after one thing: two individuals who could be easily corrupted. A married couple known as Gorak and Sudak. The two had been quite in love and had followed Sir Dracon, and they're not out of well for that. But because they wanted to kill them and take their weapons and take their heads off and present it to the councils, so they could get the reward money. However, with the 48 other cultists, it was a bit hard to kill them without getting noticed. Eventually, the cult, with the trio, found a cave. The cave was quite a large one, located west of the old city. What if we use this and froze ourselves in time, and then could only be awoken from? Yes, very good, Terror Hunter said to Indith's plan, not fully listening to it. Terror Hunter had learnt new and stronger stasis magics, and was able to use it to his advantage. However, there was one problem. Indith hated being put on stasis. But for this time he agreed to it, and of course would go with the flow, as the saying goes. Eventually they carved out the occultists carved out three pillars, and put Indith stood on his one. This is an insult, he said, before pulling out his claymore and putting it in front of him and holding it, like he was a statue. When Terror Hunter activated his stasis magic. His magic, however, would freeze Indith forever. His and Deathhorn's one, however, would not. Alright, I need two guys, he said, looking at the cultists. Two of them appeared. We live to serve, they said. Terror Hunter taught them the stasis magics and what years to wake to use them on himself and Deathhorn. Eventually they'd use a more stronger one on them, if it ever came around. The cultists agreed and did that. Terror Hunter and Deathhorn were eventually frozen. Exactly 150 years later, the magics began to wear off on Deathhorn and Terror Hunter. The magics had been passed down, yes, but the instructions weren't so clear, and unfortunately a mistake was made, thus resulting in Terror Hunter and Deathhorn being frozen indefinitely, like death. They had to wait for Lady Irene to come and wake them. Unfortunately, exactly 150 years after that, Shadow Knights, led by Gorak and Sorak, attacked and killed all of the cultists. Sorak and Gorak were told to keep an eye on them, to make sure that no one would wake them up. Not even Irene, and then if they were to call for help. Exactly 900 years after the war. 915 years after the Great Magi, after this. A young girl in purple was being chased by people of Shads, by Shadow Knights, and she fell into a cave that she had not previously known about. Shaking her hearing, getting up, she looked around. Oh, where's Gareth and Caitlin when you need them?
Ah, what a surprise! We have an honored guest. Follow me, please.
This girl was caught off guard by the fact that Gorak was standing in front of her. Reluctantly, she followed the quite shrewd little man. However, she hadn't realized she'd been followed by Shadow Knights. But not just any Shadow Knight. Xenix had followed her as well. Upon arriving into a well-lit chamber, she gasped. Oh, who are they?
These are the divine knights of Irene, Gorak said. You idiot, said Sherlock. Oh, right, they're the Fallen Three. They committed horrendous crimes, and of course, yeah.
What crimes did they commit? Gorak pointed to Terror Hunter first.
He murdered an entire peace deal.
Who was present?
The families and two of their head guards. Of two of the villages. What was it? Neapolitan... No, it was Vanilla and Chocolate Village. Whatever happened to them? I think they may have collapsed.
They're part of Neapolitan, the girl said to Gorak.
Really? Oh my goodness me. Beep.
Attack the enemy! Never!
Just ripped his wings off.
Bravo!
Well, he murdered the entire piece. The original people who had found Chocolate and Strawberry Village at Neapolitan.
Okay. What about him? The girl said, looking at the Deathhorn.
He murdered an entire court justice system because, well, I forget the reasoning.
And him?
He murdered an entire city.
She looked at him deaf. What?
Yep, murdered an entire city just because. I think. Or he wasn't going to listen to the truth. They used to serve Irene faithfully until one day that was put to rest
Down the drain.
Irene accidentally forgot about these poor sods. And, of course, it sent them a little crazy.
Wait, did you say Irene?
Well, yes. She was one of the divines. She was well respected by a lot of people. And well loved by a lot of people. Even these three. God only knows their reasons. They could never love each other. But that's not the point. Love her. They can only be awakened by the touch.
You can't tell me how to live my life.
You're not my mum.
Plus, I'm out of tea anyway. Plus, it's my storytelling tea. Anyway. Where was I? Right. Could I try to wake them up?
I don't know. Are you related to Irene in any way, shape, or form?
I am Irene.
And I'm Shad.
The woman who is now calling herself Irene gave Gorak that look.
Oh, let her try, you dumb person, you. I'm sorry, Terry. My husband's a bit crazy.
What else is new? She walked up and touched Terra Hunter's leg, then Deathhorn's, and then Indith's. 5 minutes passed by, and nothing happened. Well, I tried, she said.
Who are you?
I'm Aphmau, the descendant of Lady Irene.
Oh my goodness me. Excuse us a moment, Terry. We're just gonna go pop off over there, okay? Ta-ta, come on, Sarlacc.
The two ventured down a dark, long corridor. They didn't know they were being followed by Zinix, who wanted to keep a close eye on them. Aphmau walked around the chamber and sighed. I mean, if they were alive, they could be really powerful warriors, but I guess they are statues.
Who are you calling statues, sweet prince, sweet cheeks?
That comment caused Aphmau to jump and spin around. Terra Hunter and Deathhorn were off their podiums and were standing quite near her. Not close enough to her, but near her nonetheless. You heard that?
Of course, and we heard that you're Aphmau, aka Lady Irene. Lady Irene,
Terra Hunter said. We've been waiting for this day for quite a while. We live to serve you, Deathhorn said, as both of them bowed. Please, just call me Lady Irene. If that is your wish, Lady Aphmau, Deathhorn said. The two straightened up and looked at her. An awkward 2 seconds passed by. What about him? Aphmau said, pointing to Indith.
Oh no, he's a statue. He's always been a statue.
Who the hell are you calling a statue? Terra Hunter and Indith Deathhorn looked at Indith, who was just getting off the statue, and had his sword sheathed, and his arms crossed.
Oh, come off it. You would have done the same thing if one of us two was still stuck up there.
He's got a point, you know, Deathhorn and Terra Hunter said, defending themselves. I don't care. You guys ate the last cinnamon roll. How long was it been?
About 900 years.
The 3 knights heard that, turned and looked at her, and then looked at each other, then back at Aphmau. Did you say 900 years?
Yes.
Jeez, I'm gonna need some explanation.
But you're going to die first of all, Shadow Knight. Oh, crap. Divine Knights of Irene?
Gorak said. Gorak, you slimy son of a bitch. Shit. Indith said, drawing his claymore as a one-handed sword. Indith drawing his long sword, and Terra Hunter drawing his mace and chain and morning star, and taking up a defensive triangle around Aphmau. Zinix evacuated the cave and went to go inform Lawrence what was about to happen. As Shadow Knights and a Shadow Commander entered the chamber. In death, Terra Hunter, Deathhorn, we have come to collect your debt.
Shut up,
Terra Hunter said, mocking him. A fight soon broke out between the four, Irene and the Shadow Knights. Indith proceeded to kill Gorak while Terra Hunter killed Thorik, and Deathhorn proceeded to kill half of the friggin' army. Still, more were coming in. Alright, Deathhorn, Terra Hunter, you two take Aphmau and get out of here! Lady Irene, and get out of here! Indith commanded them to. But what about you? Oh, simple, I'm just gonna blow them up. Wait, what? We're dual magics. We'll explain later, Terra Hunter said, grabbing Aphmau and running out of the cave with Deathhorn. Indith brought his claymore and swung and killed another Shadow Knight. Soon, one of the Shadow Knight commander stabbed him straight through the chest and broke his back armor. You know, I was going to kill you nice and quickly, he mocked. Yeah, well, guess what? What? Explosions! Indeth said, as the cave erupted into a brilliant ball of fire. That went from orange and red to blue to purple, then back to red, and that. Luckily, Avmal, Terror Hunter, and Deathhorn had made it out of the cave in time, as the fireball erupted out of the end of the cave, and had Xenix. Venturing back into the cave, Terror Hunter, Deathhorn, and Avmal looked at the charred and melted bodies of the Shadow Knights and Indeth. Ah, crap. What did he just do? He used a supernova explosion, Terror Hunter said. Normally it wouldn't kill him unless you penetrate his armor or his skin. And judging by the fact that he's still got a melted sword in his center, looks like he was. Alright. Would you be willing to help me? Sure. Okay. The two fallen nodded and walked back to Phoenix Drop with Avmal. After arriving at Phoenix Drop, they saw a nether portal open and not do anything. Meanwhile, in the nether, Indeth shook his head as he was being escorted by Lauren, by Jean, and a monk he'd never seen before, past Hell, Shadow Mifoirs, and Shadow Wolves, straight towards Shad. Oh, for goodness sakes, you're bringing me in front of this guy? This guy! Watch your tone! The monk said to him. Now, best friend, be careful. Watch. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Are you kidding me? You brought this guy. This guy! Shad said, pointing to Indeth. Well, that's a fine how do you do, Indeth said. Gah! Jean, you're an idiot. Well, he can successfully killed every single guard, including the two shadow guards you had watching out for him. Really? Explosions, Indeth said. What do you want? I don't really want to be doing anything, because he's going to take over the entire friggin' nether and throw everything up. I have a better idea, Indeth said. I get to fight one of your two men, in fair combat, using your weapons and armor. If I win, you send me back to the mortal realm. If I win, you get to kill me again, and this time forever removing myself from becoming a Shadow Knight and coming back here. Deal? Fair enough, deal. And you'll be fighting the monk. Oh, crap, I have a Indeth said, muttering. Oh, don't be so hard. I murdered my entire order. I'm the only monk of it left. The monk said, walking off to the arena. Indeth was led to the armory and put on an armor set that looked vaguely familiar to his, however, just in his recent colored pastel. After walking out with a Shadow Knight Claymore, Indeth stood ready to fight the monk, whom he would fight quite well. After the 6-hour fight between the two warriors happened, Indeth wasn't even vaguely tired out. Whereas Terra, as the monk, was. One rightful blow foot tripped him, and Indeth put the sword right to the jugular of the guy's neck. Yield, monk. Fine, whatever. After winning fairly and collecting his prize, Indeth was led to a portal and back into Phoenix Drop. But he didn't know it was Phoenix Drop. Where the hell am I? You're in Phoenix Drop, good friend. Buddy chum pal, buddy chum pal. Acquaintance bro. Awesome bruh. Oh god damn it, Terror Hunter, please don't ever try that again. and Death said, facing Terror Hunter and Deathhorn, who gave him a big hug. He returned the hug and then was led into the village and presented himself in front of Lady Aphmau. Lady Irene, I live to serve. First of all, can you please call me Lady Aphmau? Second of all, I'd be love to have you. Alright, Lady Aphmau. And thus, they began to help Caitlin and many other guards. And Death and Deathhorn stayed close nearby as Earthmail's official bodyguards. Whilst Terror Hunter helped, also was nearby occasionally. They weren't close-knit to Lady Aphmau, but they gave her the same respect as they had to Lady Irene hundreds of years ago. Saw when Evelyn saw these three, she said, Death, Terror Hunter, Deathhorn. Oh my Irene. Those are the fallen three, aka the Divine Knights of Irene. She screeched loudly and began running around the three. All of whom had backed themselves into a defensive triangle. Stay back, demon! Kenmare grabbed her off and pulled her back into the room whilst Lady Irene explained Aphmau explained everything. After shaking their heads and getting used to it, they eventually settled into helping their now new leader. So that was the end of the story. I hope you guys liked my story. And I'll be playing, this will be my final match for the evening, as I got a few other things to do, and yeah. So I hope you guys liked the murders that these trio did, and then yeah. So I hope you enjoyed it. Lies! Because if you had fallen asleep at computer, you wouldn't be able to type. So lies. Don't you lie, me boy. Don't make me walk over there and fish slap you. Killing machine, bomber in the sky, B17. Da da da, da da da. Fine, I'm power napped. Yeah. Hold X to doubt. Press X to doubt. Your story has changed. Duncan will remember this. Oh well. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. And I'll talk a bit more. Nope. I did not put all the bombs on there that I wanted to put on there. Because I'm a giblet! P51H is gone. Hello, Zodiac. Just give me a moment. I got a bit of a rule when I'm playing War Thunder and people ask for invites. A while ago I was burnt. A friend of mine wanted me to invite him into a thing. Well, not a friend, a former squad mate of mine wanted me to invite him into something, and I did so, but he burnt me out, and so I don't really party with people I don't know. So sorry, I don't invite people. And at the moment I'm actually getting ready to get off to bed. This is in fact my final bit, and I'm playing one of the most iconic aircraft. Although I do want to ask you a question. What to you would be your most iconic aircraft or vehicle of the Second World War? Leave it in the description below, leave it in the comments below. Sorry, Zodiac. what your favourite vehicle of World War II is. They can be battleship, submarine, aircraft carrier, destroyer, frigate, destroyer escort, carrier escort, aircraft carrier, bomber, fighter, medium bomber, heavy bomber, torpedo bomber, dive bomber, fighter bomber, which we don't really get to see, well we do see, fighter, etc, etc, etc. And it could be even a prototype. Just leave it below and I'll do some research into it, and I may even do it as a video. I know Blazehorn's favourite one is the friggin' A30, no, not the A36, it is the Crusader tank from Britain. He loves that tank. And to be fair, that's fair enough. I mean, the tank is a very good tank. My dad got a Tesla P100,000D. It's pretty good, P100D. Have to do some research into that, though. Tesla. Pretty sure that's a car. Might be a plane, I don't know. I'll have a look at it. But yeah, I'll talk a bit about my favourite ones as well, you say that. Because, I mean, it sounds like an interesting thing to do some research on. And I'll probably do some research after this, so I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but like I said, my friends, it was also in this chat's favourite tank is the... of course, quite popular Crusader tank, and if you've watched Girls and Panzer, it's the thing that literally gets used as a fucking
The enemy's getting closer to victory.
fast vehicle, and it is a decent tank. And in World War II, it was a good tank up until the Panzer IVs appeared in the African desert, in which the tank would and did get stuck. Yeah, but there are two different versions, well, three different versions, four if you count the two anti-aircraft guns in this game that you can get of the Crusader tank, and I enjoyed playing it. It was actually one of the first, when they introduced British tanks, it was the first tank I actually ground out and got and fully, because I did quite like the design of it, and it's a good looking tank. But my favourite tank of all times is the German Jagdtiger. And I can just hear my friend going, "Oh no, now we're done. Now we're done." The German Jagdtiger was the heaviest vehicle of the Second World War, weighing at 80 tons. It was equipped with a 128mm gun, had 250mm of frontal armour at the turret. Yep, there you go. And it was very, very dangerous. Unfortunately, like the Tiger II and like the Tiger, and of course the ME-262s and all of the other vehicles, it was produced far too late at the end of the Second World War to do really any changing of it. But if it had been there in larger numbers, there would have been nothing that the Russians, the Soviets, that the British, or even the Americans could have done to stop this tank. Same with if they had the Maus and even the P1000 Rat. Although, interesting story about the P1000 Rat. It never existed. It was a blueprint story, and the blueprint art, and then Hitler was like, "Yeah, we want this," and then the head of the army command was like, "No, never build this thing ever." I guess you could say the biggest, people that helped lose the Second World War was the Nazi High Command, because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. This is why you don't let revenge be a good killer, like be your motives for behind it, because essentially, if you wanted to be bloody well honest, World War II was basically revenge. It was Hitler's revenge against the Jews, it was Hitler's revenge against the Allied powers of the Allied powers of World War I, it was Hitler's revenge against a lot of people for what they did to Nazi Germany. And let me be honest, looks like there's a train down there. Is there a train down there? Kind of cool if there was, but I don't think there is. If the Allied powers at the end of the First World War hadn't done what they did to Germany after the end of the World War I, World War II would have never happened. But what they did to Hitler, what they did to what they did to Germany, what they did to, well, Germany, was the biggest dick move. It's like walking up, it's like me walking up to play someone, punching him in the dick, offering him a lollipop, and then taking the lollipop away and punching him in the dick again. And then going to his house and stealing half his shit. That is literally what the Allied powers did. They walked over, knocked on Nazi Germany's door, the German Empire's door, punched him in the nose, walked in, offered him a drink, punched him in the nose again when he went out to grab the drink, when he reached up to grab the drink, took the drink away, drank that, then stole half his crap.
Returning to the base.
That is the biggest dick move, because what they did is they basically said, you cannot re-militarize the Rhineland, you can no longer have tanks, you can no longer have a navy, you can no longer do anything without the Treaty of Versailles. And let's be honest, if they hadn't done that, World War II would never have happened, and the fact that Hitler never got accepted into his art academy. Yes, Anthony, yes, that is what you would say if I did that to you. I'm guessing that's to that. Because that was weird, though. I'll tell you this. Had I not been looking at my phone, that message would never have been sent because, well, to be honest, it was held for review, and I was like, wait. Or I would be whimpering in pain. Or you'd be swearing at me because I would have literally been a dick. That's called betraying your trust, and that's something you wouldn't. Shut the fuck up, you role player. Hey, no fighting in my chat. The one thing I do not want to have is people arguing in my chat or telling someone to go get stuffed or shut up. Because that is not good. Blazor can do whatever the hell he wants because it's not going to affect anyone. If it's going to affect you, hey, I hate role players. They never stop. And who cares? That is one thing you're allowed to have. It is your opinion. But when you're on my stream, people can do whatever the hell they want, so long as it's not racist, narcissistic, or evil. Or supports, or, you know, is a bloody adverb. Because I don't like people like that. They ruin a lot of the stuff. I mean, it's like walking up to your friend and saying, hey, look, I don't like you. Let's go hang out. Your friend would be feeling like, why would I want to hang out with you? You just said you didn't like me. Blazor can do whatever he wants. And no, that message will not be shown. Because, you know, that's fair enough. You're allowed your opinion. But this is my stream, and one of my rules is no arguing or calling another person or telling another person to shut up just because you don't like it. If you don't like it, then do the big boys thing. My brother died in the Navy 3 days ago, so I'm... Well, dude, I didn't know your brother died in the Navy. I didn't really... You know... I didn't know your brother died in the Navy. I mean... What Navy is he in? US... I'm guessing he's in the US Navy, or something like... Or is he in... Oh... Was that in the Argentinian submarine thing? Was that submarine that just went missing? That... Oh, thank... Zodiac, can I say no to the fight? But... Russia... Fair enough. No, it's the Russian Navy. Yeah, there you go. Holy crap, dude, I haven't lost, anyone like a sibling like the way you probably have. And I am deeply, deeply sorry. I mean, that, you know, you lost your brother. But please, please don't call him a twat. I'm gonna hit a tent. I'm gonna hit a tent. Oh, jeez. Oh! Why don't you believe me? Well, it's a bit hard to really say, you know, like that. I do believe you, and I'm not joking. I never joke about death. Because if you've lost someone close to you, then why would you joke about it? Why would you not believe someone when, you know, they've said that they've lost their sibling, in the Navy, or in like that? I mean, that's like, well, it's like now I get a phone call saying my brother was killed in a drunk driving accident. I would feel devastated, like you are right now. But just because, and I really do need to say this, just because you're upset, I'm gonna have to say you're gonna need to just don't call person's name. I mean, you're allowed to be upset, you're allowed to feel hurt, you're allowed to feel angry. That's perfectly fine. But please do not take it out on another person, because that's not fair on them, because they don't know the story. I mean, I didn't know that you had lost a brother, and the other guy didn't either. But we are, well, I truly do wish that you do hope you find peace. May your brother rest in peace. You said 5 years. That's friggin' 5 years, man. It was a major. Damn. It's pretty respectable rank, actually, Major. I know my granddad served in the army, both of them. The only one's alive nowadays because the other one died of smoking. That's not a bad... It's a pretty good kill record. What was your brother's name? Bryant. Oh, yep. Well, hopefully he's up in heaven with 3 crates of vodka. Yeah. Oh well. So, oh, well done. They've all lost all their friends. Now I kind of feel bad for fighting against the Russians in this. Damn. I feel really bad for flying as an American bomber against the Russians, especially the Soviet Union. Don't joke around about vodka. I'm not joking around about vodka, although I do understand 3 crates of vodka is a joke in... Yuck. Yeah, you capitalist. I'm a filthy capitalist, yeah, but no. Oh, jeez. Yeah, so... Yeah. Although, to be honest, I mean, when you have a look at some of the Soviet vehicles, I mean, I do have some of the Soviet vehicles. I don't have all of them. I do want to eventually research my way through them. I'm currently getting the ISU-152. Because why not? But a lot of what the Russians built, especially during the Second World War, actually worked a lot better than what the Americans built. Where was it? I'm going to talk about this tank because this tank is amazing. It is simply one of my favorite vehicles. This is the issue 100Y, obviously, and it has a 130mm naval cannon equipped to it. And what the Russians thought was like, all right, we got a naval ship. Why not we just take a naval gun from that thing and move on that? And that, oh yeah, that works. This thing actually does exist. It's in the Kabranka, I probably butchered that, Tank Museum in Moscow. Or I could be wrong. Because you sound sick. I've got a sore throat. I might have a cold, I don't know. And, this vehicle actually fought in the Battle of Moscow, because here's two things that the Russians did that were better than what the US and what the British did during the Second World War. The Russians built things that actually worked. Yes, that is a modifications, didn't mean to hit that. The SU-100Y, the KV-266, the KV-1E, the SMK, for example, all existed because, well, the Russians were building, and they did. This thing existed but was taken out during the Winter War, which was between the Soviet Union and the Finnish, and it was knocked out and it was eventually scrapped, I think. Yes, it was scrapped. But a lot of these vehicles, such as the T-70, the T-60, BT-7, T-26, T-50, BT-5, Tu-35, Su-57, B-8, B-8-24, T-3, which is a Russian Panzer III, etc., 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 all actually did pretty damn well. I mean, when the Germans first saw the KV-1s and the KV-2s, their nickname was the Russian Colossi because these things originally had 102mm of frontal armor and 75mm of side and rear armor. And the KV-2, with its 152mm howitzer, was just devastating. And I'm pretty sure there's an official record that the KV-2 held off the German 3rd Panzer Division for 2 days. My brother's favourite tank is T-34 1942. Oh, yeah. I, for one, actually have to say that I never really got the hang of the T-34, so, where is it? That's 57. This one here. Preview. So, this tank here. I mean, it's a good tank. The T-34, when it first appeared, was, like all tanks, garbage. But after the Russians refined it, and distilled it like vodka, eventually it got quite a good flavour. I mean, you got T-34 1942 here, T-34E, T-3457, of which I've got the premium version, T-3485, T-3485, and then it led on to the T-44 and the T-54 tanks. And because of what the Soviets did during World War II, the T-34 had sloped armour, it could stop shells from Panzer IVs and 75mm pack guns, and then the KV tanks would stop that until they started using the 88 and employed the Tiger tanks, such as the Tiger... No, wrong loadout. The Tiger 1 here, this thing would have, and did devastate the KV-1, the KV-2, the KV whatever, the T-34s, yada yada yada. But once the Russians captured a Tiger 1, they eventually used it, and used it to eventually develop the IS, which is a good tank. Probably one tank I enjoy using quite a bit because it is a lot of fun. The IS one, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. It was actually originally called the KV 85, and it was originally... This tank, by the way, went under 2 different names. The IS one, as you see it here, I'll answer that in a moment, please just give me a moment. And the IS 85, I have been playing close to about 3 years now. Coming up 3 years. Yeah, no, it's been past 3 years, just past 3 years. I've been playing because I remember when a lot of these planes and tanks weren't actually in the game. I actually remember when the AR-2 used to be the vehicle you researched before you got the IL-4, and half of these planes didn't even exist, and it was just amazing. God damn, yeah. I was here before because when I started playing, the Japanese were the last tech tree, then we got the Italians, and then we got the Italians last year, we got the French this year, and so, hey, it's pretty good. And I do enjoy the French. I've got to actually get back into grinding these bad boys out, because, I mean, with the French, I enjoy killing them. And then with the Italians, I do quite enjoy them as well. They're quite a bit of fun. I can't dogfight though, but I can still do quite well. And I mean, at the moment we do have 2 Italian tanks, which are these bad boys. And yeah. But before I go, I do want to say, hey, Blazehorn Gaming, it's your favorite tank. Crusader Mark III eventually, it had, as it says up there on the little text spec, has a 5070. Nice. Interesting fact about the Leozel. Yep, thank you, Blazon, for being Pingu. Interesting fact, the P in the Leonocelio is not actually standing for, like what the P40 is. It actually translates, it's the Italian word for heavy tank. This thing was a heavy tank. And when it first came out, the Germans, the Italians, and the English loved it. Because it was a good tank. I ripped off my headset. Anyway, it's getting quite late, and I do want to talk to a friend for a bit. So much for watching. My condolences to Zodiac's family, for losing their brother, Leoncello. I think the Italians pronounce it Cello, but oh well. Thank you for coming out. Again, if you want to leave a suggestion for a vehicle I have a goof around in, I play, I talk about, do let me know. This week today I've been talking about that, but do note that I'm going to be a bit slack on the videos, unfortunately, but thank you for watching. Huge, by Zodiac, and I'll talk to you in a bit, Duncan. Huge, my condolences to Zodiac's family in these dark times, and I will catch you all in the next video. I'm Duncannuva saying G1 Superion, and good night.